Did you know that nearly 48 million Americans get sick every year from foodborne illnesses, and over 3,000 of them die, many of them seniors? According to the CDC, older adults are at a much higher risk because their immune systems aren't as strong as they used to be. What's even scarier is that a lot of these illnesses start right in your fridge. That's right, your refrigerator, the very place you think keeps your food safe, could actually be turning everyday foods into health hazards. Recent studies show that improperly storing certain foods in the fridge can increase your risk of food poisoning, nutrient loss, and even trigger dangerous chemical reactions. And the worst part? Most people don't even know. If you've been putting fruits, vegetables or pantry staples in the fridge without thinking about it, you might be setting yourself up for trouble. The number one food on this list is especially concerning. Not only does it lose its nutritional value, but it also develops harmful compounds when chilled. Stick with us until the end, because what you'll learn could literally save your health or even your life. Before we get started, let us know in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Now, let's jump right in. Potatoes. Let's start with a kitchen classic that many of us toss straight into the fridge without a second thought. Potatoes. But here's the shocking truth. Refrigerating potatoes actually makes them dangerous. When you store raw potatoes in cold temperatures, something sneaky happens at the cellular level. The starch in the potato turns into sugar faster than it should. While this might not sound like a big deal, here's where things take a turn. When you later cook or bake those refrigerated potatoes, especially at high heat, those sugars combine with amino acids to produce acrylamide, a chemical linked to cancer in animal studies and under investigation for its effects on humans. It doesn't stop there. The texture of potatoes also changes in the fridge, becoming grainy, mushy, and sometimes even darkened, which signals oxidation and nutrient loss. Instead of being the comforting, hearty food we love, refrigerated potatoes turn into a soft, sweet mess that could be toxic when cooked. If you've ever wondered why your roasted potatoes tasted oddly sweet or why the texture felt off, your fridge could be to blame. Potatoes should be stored in a cool, dark, dry place, not cold and wet. This helps them stay firm, flavorful, and safe to eat. So if you have potatoes in your fridge right now, it's time to take them out before they turn into a health hazard disguised as dinner. Bread. Let's talk about bread, an essential food that many of us rely on. You might think putting your loaf of bread in the fridge will help it stay fresh longer, but that's actually one of the worst things you can do. The science behind this is called retrogradation, which is just a fancy term for the fact that the starch molecules in bread begin to crystallize when exposed to cold temperatures. This doesn't take weeks. It starts happening almost immediately. What does that mean for you? Your soft, fluffy bread will go stale much faster in the fridge than if you just left it out at room temperature. That's right, the fridge doesn't keep your bread fresh, it speeds up staling. And while you might not notice the difference right away, you'll definitely taste it. The texture becomes tough, dry, and crumbly, making toast a chore and sandwiches less enjoyable. But it gets worse. When bread loses moisture in the fridge, it becomes a breeding ground for mold when you bring it back out. Mold spores love the damp, uneven moisture that develops during refrigeration. And moldy bread isn't just gross, it can be dangerous. Some molds produce mycotoxins, which are toxic compounds that can cause serious health issues when eaten, especially in older adults with weakened immune systems. If you're trying to make your bread last longer, freezing it is actually a much better option. The freezer stops mold growth and starling without ruining the texture. Just slice it before freezing and defrost as needed. But the fridge, it's a no-go zone for your loaf. Keep bread at room temperature in a bread box or sealed container for up to a few days, and freeze anything beyond that. Don't let the chill steal your loaf's life and your health. Onions. You might be surprised to see onions on this list, but refrigerating them is a common mistake that can cause unexpected problems. Onions naturally have a papery skin that helps keep moisture out, keeping them firm and flavorful. But when you put onions in the fridge, that delicate balance gets thrown off completely. The cold, damp environment inside your fridge causes onions to absorb moisture faster, especially once they've been cut. This leads to a mushy texture, off-putting flavor, and sometimes mold. But there's a bigger issue. Onions are super pungent, and when refrigerated, they release sulfur compounds that not only break down more quickly, but also seep into other foods around them. Ever noticed your butter or fruit tasting a little like onion? That's not your imagination. It's the fridge absorbing those strong odors. Another hidden danger is bacterial contamination. A sliced onion left in the fridge, even if covered, can become a breeding ground for bacteria. For whole onions, the best storage is in a dry, dark, well-ventilated space, like a pantry. For cut onions, they should only be refrigerated when tightly sealed and used quickly, ideally within a day or two. But keeping whole onions cold, that's a recipe for spoilage, nutrient loss, and an unpleasant fridge full of onion-flavored surprises. Tomatoes. Tomatoes are one of the most misunderstood foods when it comes to refrigeration. Most people think putting them in the fridge helps keep them fresh longer, but cold temperatures are actually tomato destroyers, both in taste and texture. Scientifically speaking, tomatoes are tropical fruits, and they absolutely hate the cold. When you put them in the fridge, the cold messes with their natural enzymes and stops the ripening process. And that ripening is where much of the tomato's flavor comes from. Without it, you're left with a bland, watery, mealy fruit that tastes like nothing. And the texture. Tomatoes stored in the fridge lose their firmness and turn into a soft, rubbery mess. That satisfying bite and juicy burst you expect from a fresh tomato is gone. What's even worse is the effect on nutrients. Tomatoes are a good source of vitamin C, but this vitamin degrades much faster in cold storage. That means you're not only sacrificing taste, but also health benefits. The skin even starts to wrinkle when kept too cold for too long, making them look old, even when they're still relatively fresh. If you've ever sliced a tomato and found it watery or dull, chances are it's been chilled. The best way to store tomatoes is at room temperature, away from sunlight and stem side down, to preserve moisture. If they're overripe, use them right away or cook them. Don't toss them in the fridge thinking you're helping. They'll just spoil faster. Garlic. Garlic is often called a superfood for its sulfur compounds like allicin, which support immune health and help lower blood pressure. But these benefits can quickly disappear or even turn harmful if you store garlic in the fridge. Whole garlic bulbs last for weeks or even months at room temperature, especially when kept in a dry, cool, well-ventilated spot. But when you refrigerate garlic, the moisture and cold temperature mess with its preservation. The cloves start sprouting prematurely, which not only changes the flavor, but also messes with its chemical makeup. That sharp, flavorful punch turns bitter and rubbery. Even worse, refrigerated garlic, especially if chopped or minced and stored in oil, can become a breeding ground for Clostridium botulinum, the bacteria that causes botulism. This rare but potentially fatal illness can lead to paralysis and death if not treated right away. The FDA warns against storing garlic in oil without proper acid or refrigeration safeguards, but many people do this without knowing the risks. Instead of chilling garlic, store the whole bulb in a mesh bag or basket in your pantry. If you store chopped garlic, use it quickly and keep it in vinegar or lemon juice to reduce bacterial risks. Don't let the fridge strip garlic of its power or introduce hidden dangers. Coffee. Coffee is on this list for a good reason. Coffee beans and grounds are super sensitive to moisture, odors, and light. When you put them in the fridge, you think you're keeping them fresh, but you're actually causing them to decline quickly. Coffee is hygroscopic, which means it absorbs moisture and smells from its environment like a sponge inside your fridge. Surrounded by fruits, veggies, and leftovers, coffee picks up those aromas and flavors, completely destroying its flavor profile. But it's not just about flavor. Moisture is the real enemy. When coffee is exposed to the cold air and humidity of the fridge, condensation forms on the beans or grounds every time you open the door. This leads to clumping, staling, and the breakdown of the essential oils that give coffee its aroma and health benefits. Over time, refrigerated coffee becomes flat and loses its potential health benefits. What's worse, damp coffee grounds can grow mold if they're stored in a non-airtight container. Instead of refrigerating, store your coffee in an airtight container at room temperature in a dark cabinet. This keeps it fresh, flavorful, and safe. Honey. You might be surprised to learn that refrigerating honey is one of the worst things you can do. In fact, putting honey in the fridge doesn't just ruin its texture, it reverses the natural preservation process that makes honey one of the only foods in the world that never spoils. When you put honey in the fridge, the cold causes it to crystallize rapidly, turning it hard and grainy. This might seem like a small change, but it can trap moisture inside, leading to fermentation and a sour taste. The moisture also makes the honey more susceptible to microbial growth. The cold also weakens honey's natural antibacterial properties. The best place to store honey is in a sealed jar in your pantry or cupboard, away from sunlight and heat. This keeps its smooth texture, natural flavor, and healing properties intact. Bananas. Bananas are one of the most popular fruits, especially among seniors who rely on them for potassium and easy digestion. But refrigerating bananas is a surefire way to ruin everything that makes them great. Bananas are tropical fruits, and their internal chemistry is built for warm environments. When you put them in the fridge, especially before they're fully ripe, the cold shuts down the enzymes that drive ripening. This means your bananas may never ripen properly. They'll stay hard, taste bland, and the skin will quickly turn black or grey. This discoloration isn't just unappealing, it's a sign of cold injury. Under that black skin, the banana can turn mushy and develop a strange metallic flavor. But beyond the flavor and appearance, refrigeration damages the antioxidants in bananas, like dopamine and catechins, which are important for brain health, especially in older adults. So instead of chilling your bananas, keep them at room temperature, ideally in a fruit bowl where air can circulate. If they ripen too much, freeze them for later use in smoothies or baking. Olive oil. The most dangerous food to refrigerate, especially for seniors, is olive oil. When refrigerated, olive oil solidifies, causing the fatty acids to crystallize and making the oil cloudy and partially solid. This change isn't harmful in itself, but temperature fluctuations from taking the oil in and out of the fridge can create health risks. Each time the oil moves between cold and warm temperatures, its chemical structure undergoes stress, speeding up oxidation and creating harmful free radicals that can cause inflammation, exactly what seniors don't need. Plus, refrigerated olive oil loses its flavor and makes it difficult to pour. Store olive oil in a dark glass or metal container in a cool cupboard away from heat. Properly stored, it'll maintain its health benefits and flavor for up to 2 years. These are the 9 foods you should never refrigerate. Start by reorganizing your kitchen based on food type. Keep tropical fruits like bananas and avocados out of the fridge until they're ripe. Store potatoes and onions in cool, dark places. Keep bread at room temperature or freeze it. Store honey and coffee properly and treat garlic and tomatoes like the natural, powerful foods they are. Share your experiences with us in the comments. Thanks for watching.